Good morning. Thanks for being here today. I'm Pam Schumann. I think a lot of you know me at this point. And we are pleased to be welcoming Mr. Daniel Polk from North Texas UU Congregations, NTUC. He's the executive director there. He will be our speaker today. But in the meantime, we just want to let you know we're excited that you're here with us today at our worship service. And if you're joining for the first time or joining us for the first time in person or virtually, we're glad you're here. And whether you've been here for longer than you can remember, I'm getting some reverb. Okay, much better, thank you. Whether this is your first time or you've been here for longer than you can remember, we're really glad to have you. Here at Horizon, we welcome people of all faiths and of no faith in particular. Whoever you are, wherever you are on your journey, you are welcome among us. Let me draw your attention to a couple of announcements before we begin. You probably noticed there is our Pride is Local little insert, and that's coming up next Saturday, and we invite everybody to come. I've seen pictures. I haven't been at it, but the pictures I saw, it's wonderful. It's a lot of fun. So everybody come and have some fun. On the other side, you'll see Lawrence, our religious education director's plea for people to help during the summer. The kids are wonderful. Even if you only do it once, it's a wonderful experience. I highly recommend it. And then within your order of service, there are more things listed, as well as you can go out to our website, horizonuu.org, to catch up on any news at any time. So we will now have our call to worship. This is a poem from Reverend Sharon Wiley, and it's called When News Has Been Sad. You whose hearts are broken, come in. You whom pain has touched, and sorrow and shock. You who have cried this week and read the news with sadness. You whom loss has shadowed. You who grieve, come in, come in. You with hearts open to joy and hope, come in. You whom love has touched and friendship and wonder. You who have laughed this week and felt gratitude for life's many blessings. You to whom gifts are given in abundance. You who rejoice, come in, come in. All our hearts are broken and open. All of us here grieve and rejoice. This is our place, and this is our hour, to gather and sing and cry and laugh. Come in, let us worship together. And Daniel will now help me with the chalice lighting.
Yes, and I would also say we are a community of faith, which I do not equate with the word belief. To borrow words from Emerson, each of us has faith in something. The question is in what? If you did not have faith, could you even leave your house in the morning? To light our chalice, we gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together. We say together the affirmation, love is the doctrine of our church, the quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. to dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity in harmony with the earth. Thus do we covenant together. Our opening hymn is number 12, O Life That Maketh All Things New.
O life that maketh all things new, the moving of our thoughts within, our pilgrim feet when with thy dew, in gladness hear the dawn again. From hand to hand God greeting flows, from eye to eye the signals run, from heart to heart the bright hope grows, the seekers of the light are one. One in the freedom of the truth, one in the joy of paths untrod, one in the soul's perennial youth, one in the larger thought of God. The freer step, the fuller breath, the wide horizon's grander view, the sense of life that knows no death, the life that maketh all things new.
Good morning. My name is Lauren Daniel. I'm the Director of Lifespan Religious Education. I would, first of all, Horizon partners with MetroCrest Services to support the people in our local community. I am now going to invite the young people and people young at heart to sit over here in front of the chancel. And as the people come past, be sure to give them your donations for MetroCrest Services, which can go into the basket right here. So can I have my young folks come up? So I want to say welcome. I have to admit, we have a small army of children in the back getting ready for Pride next week. And so I'm just so glad you all are here today. So, you know, it's been a really hard couple of weeks. And it's really been, this week has been especially hard, don't you think? So in weeks like this, I like to turn to Unitarian Universalism. And I find comfort and peace there in my Unitarian Universalist faith. And oftentimes I'll look to the past to find things to inspire me because Unitarians and Universalists have been around a long time and they have faced many trials too. And let me tell you about one thing that really inspires me. So do y'all know what this is? Oh, it's an old-fashioned Unitarian Universalist chalice, and I'll explain the rings in a second. But the story of the chalice is really inspiring to me. And to me, it's so comforting with everything going on in the world right now. So I want you to go back to the dark days of World War II. Almost all the people who lived in Europe and elsewhere had their homes and cities destroyed, and they were singled out for imprisonment. Many people tried to escape from the war, and those people we call refugees. Some Unitarians in the United States decided to help these refugees, and they formed something called the Unitarian Service Committee. At that time, it was Unitarians and Universalists separate. They were not together yet. The committee members went to Europe to try to bring the refugees safely out of the war. You know, these refugees spoke many different languages. And of course, the Americans spoke English. And so they were wondering how they could let the refugees know that Unitarians were safe and were helpers. It was the refugees had trouble understanding. So Dr. Charles Joy was a Unitarian, and he was in charge of the Unitarian Service Committee. He knew that the Unitarians needed a symbol everyone could recognize, no matter what language they spoke. It would have to be a picture with a symbol and no words. That way, anyone could understand the message, "We are here to help you." Dr. Joy asked an artist named Hans Deutsch for help. Maybe an artist could draw the right kind of picture that could be the symbol for Unitarians. The two men met in Portugal, and Mr. Deutsch understood why a picture would be helpful because his native language was German. He had come from Austria, but right now he was a refugee because of the war. Mr. Deutsch made a drawing of a chalice with a flame surrounded by a circle. He showed it to Dr. Joy. The symbol really worked. Soon refugees all over Europe began to see this symbol wherever the Unitarian Service Committee went to find and help them. When the refugees saw this picture of the chalice, a flame, and a circle around the chalice, it looked like it was protecting it, and they knew they could trust the Unitarians. They did not need to speak English or even how to read to understand the symbol. The picture gave the message of hope, freedom, and love that the refugees were looking for. And after the war was over, Unitarians began using the flaming chalice and its circle as a symbol in worship. Later, the Universalists joined the Unitarians to form the Unitarian Universalist Association. And people started to draw the symbol with two circles instead of one. One circle was for the Unitarians, and the other circle was for the Universalists. And if you look at my old-fashioned chalice, can't you see the two circles? And the circles are so close together that they overlap. I don't know if you can see them overlapping at the bottom. The circles are connected, just as Unitarian Universalists believe that all of us are connected to one another. The chalice is not exactly in the middle of the circle either. It's almost like the chalice has moved over to let something else come in to the circle. It reminds us that Unitarian Universalists always leave room for other ideas and other ways. There's always more room in Unitarian Universalism. And so now, since about the 1980s, the flaming chalice is our faith symbol for Unitarian Universalists. It is a symbol of learning and caring and love. It's a symbol of hope and freedom and light. Today, I take comfort in its story because it reminds me that Unitarians and Universalists in the past faced hard times and that we were able to take action and make the world a better place. And I'm sure we are going to do it again. Well, thank you all for listening to our story about our flaming chalice. And we're about to go to class now. I wanted to make a quick announcement. Class is for kids who are entering 1st through 7th grade next year, and you can follow me to class. If you're younger than going into 1st grade, you can go to the nursery for childcare. I'm not sure we have, I think those kids are already where they're supposed to be. So thank you so much for listening. I'm going to ask our singer to sing us out.
May your mind be open to new learning. May your lips bring truth into the world. May your heart know love and your hands do the work of justice as you go your way in peace. As you go your way in peace.
The chalice actually has been a symbol of ours for more than 600 years, but I'll have to come tell that story another time. This church is supported by the pledges of members and friends. Let us now receive and give the morning offering. first reading today is by the Reverend Eugene Pickett. He was president of the UUA some 40 years ago. This is in the book, Being Liberal in an Illiberal Age. During my growing up years in a small village in Maryland, the local Methodist church was central in my life. But in my high school years, questions and doubts began to surface, to grow, for there was no one with whom I could share my yearning and searching. My high school and early college days and my time in the Navy were deeply lonely times. I still recall with painful intensity those early months in the Navy when I was just 18, frightened and alone. At the end of the day, I would crawl into my bunk and pull the blankets over my head and pray that God or someone would help me in my loneliness. And then I would cry myself to sleep, fearful that someone in a nearby bunk would hear me. Praying didn't seem to help, but I think the crying did. How much I needed someone to share my religious search. How great was my need for someone to care. The need for a supportive and searching religious community has never left me. That, in part, is why I became a minister. That, in part, is why I am committed to building a strong Unitarian Universalist movement.
We now come to the time in the service where we share our joys and sorrows. As we say, the doctrine of our church is love, and this is part of the way we share our love. Except that no one has put anything in there. I'll add a quick one. Tomorrow would have been my mother's 100th and something birthday, so happy birthday, Mom. And then, of course, we do have the terrible sorrows of this past week that I'm sure are weighing heavily on all of us. Just unspeakable sorrow, and what do we do with it? Well, we'll be talking about that shortly. Daniel will now lead us in a prayer and silent meditation.
For meditation today, I'm using words, A Call to Worship and Action, also by Sharon Wiley from Escondido, California. It is said the ministers are here to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. I say we are all afflicted and we are all comfortable. May our time together this morning be a comfort and a confrontation. May we find here peace in times of tumult. May we here invite tumult into lives of peace. May we here find calm in times of restlessness. May we here allow restlessness to evolve into action. Let this place be the place you consider what you've never considered. Let this be the place you imagine for yourself something new and unthinkable. May this hour bring new dreams, new ways of being in the world. Now, in the time of silence and meditation, let us ponder the prayers in our hearts. Words used at Dallas First for many years. We ask this in the names of all those known and unknown, present and absent, remembered and forgotten. We ask this in the names of all the helpers of humanity. Now, you're doing the reading? Oh. Oh, hymn number what, 3? I knew there was something. Number 318, We Would Be One.
We would be one, as now we join in singing our hymn of love, to pledge ourselves to that high cause of greater understanding of who we are and what in us is true. We would be one in living for each other to show to all a new community. We would be one in building for tomorrow a nobler world than we have known today. We would be one in searching for that meaning which binds our hearts and points us on our way. As one we pledge ourselves to greater service, with love and justice strive to make us free.
Our second reading today is by Daniel Christian Limbaugh from the May 12th, 1899 address to all of those who were interested in forming a Unitarian church in Dallas, Texas. The time has come in the history of Dallas when a broad and liberal Christianity should be declared here. Many souls are hungering and thirsting for religious knowledge, truth, and righteousness. To them, the old dogmas, doctrines, and creeds appear outgrown. These persons are at sea without a chart or compass, and many are making shipwrecks of their religious natures. The old creeds seem to them unworthy of the character of God, the nature of man, and the highest conception of human duty and destiny. We need a liberal platform which does no violence to religion, but which, while perfectly rational, is at the same time expressive of the highest conception of a life of spirituality.
Why does the world need Unitarian Universalism? This was a question Jenny Corder asked us. She was then moderator of the UUA Board of Trustees, and I thought, dag nabbit, there's another sermon I've got to write. But as a Toastmaster, I flipped at the question, redirect, and answer something else. Why do I need UUism? I need a place to question everything, even if I don't expect answers. I need a place to be a relaxed agnostic. Don't have many answers, not too worried about it either. Maybe I'll find some kindred souls. I need the affirmation of my entire fabulous self. Yes, my notes do say to Vogue. I had left the Presbyterian Church as a teenager and wandered for a decade before I was ready to find this faith community. I was anti-church, but I still wanted to be part of an institution. I walked into First Unitarian Church of Dallas and knew that I was home. So that's my answer in a nutshell. As for you, why do you need Unitarian Universalism? Well, you ponder that. The larger society, why does the world, why does our country, why does Texas need our good news? Why does Denton County need UUism? Why do Louisville and North Carrollton need our message? Indian Creek, Rosemead Heights, Oak Hills Acorn, Hunters Creek. Why? One part of my answer is that our 7 principles have been under siege. The inherent worth and dignity of every person. You know, between what's coming out of our state legislatures, chipping away at civil rights, transgender people being murdered, not to mention people being shot just while at the grocery store and schools, not everyone's being respected. 2, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. Ditto. Acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. We usually do okay with each other, but have you listened to a talk show lately? Or what about social media discussions? Try reading those comments after someone posts something provocative. Or maybe don't read them, especially after the past week. A free and responsible search for truth and meaning. With the state of local school boards and teachers having to teach to this test, there's cause for alarm. Right of conscience and use of the democratic process in our congregations and in society at large. Have you seen the news lately? Oh, and that election thing? 6, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. Sometimes it feels like some people, along with governments and corporations, are working against this goal. And 7, respect for the interdependent web of existence of which we are a part. Anyone else think that web is breaking? That it's dangerous at points? Here's more of my answer. We need to be a home for religious liberals of all theologies, of atheists and pagans and those in between and on the edges. And we need to be a voice for liberal religion, to add our perspective to the community dialogue. We need to be there for people who are marginalized. Black Lives Matter is still there. We need to be there. Racism is alive. Jim Crow has gone high-tech, and the Klan is trading in their white robes for khakis. Me Too movement reminds us that sexism is alive and well. LGBTQ community coming out is so much earlier, way earlier than when I was a kid, but the substance and suicide rates are still way higher than general population. Homelessness, homeless youth, 40% of homeless youth, LGBT, kicked out of their homes or fled for their personal safety. We don't want to think about the survival sex that happens. There was a new study about 3 years ago of young people incarcerated. LGBT folks twice as likely to be incarcerated. Reproductive justice, nobody's safe when the Texas Ledge is in session. We know that all too well. And they haven't given up on bathroom bills. But we have a connection to Roe v. Wade. Roe v. Wade started in my home church, First Unitarian Dallas. One of the 7 women is still alive who started work on Roe v. Wade. We have to maintain their legacy. Environmental justice. There's lots of work to do there. But one of our tools is our whole lives. The sexuality curriculum, sex ed class for all our youth and older folks with a bit of gray, even if you have some color on it. We could teach that to neighborhood kids and young adults in community centers because abstinence only does not work. Now, if you're angry, upset, nervous, scared, what's happening with reproductive rights, the Don't Say Gay bills, school boards banning books, and you want to take direct action, Lauren Daniel has an answer to you. Teach OWL. There's a training in August. You may learn as much while taking the classes as those teachers learn a lot. And there's that new curriculum for older gray-haired adults. Think about it, because it changes each of us. So here's a story, and I first have to give you some background. First Dallas, the lesbian gay group has sold donuts at the donut table for 35 years. It is an institution. It is a ritual that kids go get their donut after Sunday school class. Well, a few years ago, there was a kid taking 8th grade OWL. Okay, 8th grade, that's what, 13 years old, maybe 14? He found out while taking OWL class that being gay or lesbian meant more than selling donuts on Sunday morning. 8th grade, I tell you. How do we get to be that church, to build that church, to be there for our neighbors? You're doing a good job on stewardship, so I'll save that for another sermon. Instead, let's think what our North Texas congregations could be and could do. Now, some background. NTOC started in 1969 building affordable housing. Who knew that? But there was a builder who knew about this federal program. He needed a partner organization, so he brought us in to be the organization, the lead on this. And we built the first integrated apartment housing in North Texas. It was the model when HUD went to Housing Urban Development, went to talk to other programs in other cities. Ours was the model. It was the ideal. One of only 2 in the entire country that embodied the ideals behind the legislation. It was wonderful. We had on-site parenting class, GED classes, healthcare social workers on-site. It was the ideal, but after 30 years, the program was gone. The place needed major repairs. Rent was up near market rate. We got a good offer. We took the money and ran. And got in the stock market at a very good time, which is our endowment that funds our work and our budget where we give grants to organizations out of that money. So in our strategic planning process, we were asked, if we are successful, how will North Texas be different in 20 or 50 years or 100 years? Part of my answer is more just, more loving, and more sustainable. To be just, we are called to be anti-oppression, to fight the isms and phobias in society. We've made some progress in our own institutions as well. Justice work takes both social action and community service. The latter is helping neighbors in need, while the former, we work at reducing that need in the first place. Social action can be running a marathon because it takes a long time to change opinions and attitudes and laws. Community service gives immediate reward, but if we don't work on why those people are hungry and need housing, we'll be doing that same work in 30 and 50 years from now. One organization I like is City Square that has such a good balance of social justice work and community service work. To be more loving, not a Pollyanna embrace of everyone or mushy statements that belong on a Valentine, but love rooted in our principles. Sometimes that love is tough. When friends or neighbors are abused, sometimes we need to be fierce in our love, not timid. I want to tell a story here of shutting down a protester. I shut down a protester in Fort Worth Pride Parade. Now, Dallas Pride Parade is noisy. They've got the big trucks with the blare out the speakers. Protesters can't be heard, but Fort Worth is much quieter. And the protesters come out with bullhorns. And they get mean and they are personal, mean, and nasty. I shut one down. She was walking beside the parade, and the teenagers were in a yelling match with her, and she was enjoying it, of course. And I went up to them and said, "Stop. You're just encouraging her. This is what she wants. Don't answer her. This is just feeding her. Stop, be quiet." They did. She looks at me, and I'm supposed to do something. Whoops. I just caught a tiger by the tail. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. The teenagers joined in with me. She gave up and walked away. The best part was I showed young adults how it could be done. There's another protester I'll tell you about later. But a quote from Martin Luther King, "Power without love is reckless and abusive, and love without power is sentimental and anemic. Power at its best is implementing the demands of justice, and justice at its best is power correcting everything that stands against love." More sustainable. Well, caring for planet Earth should be a no-brainer, but I also want us to be economically sustainable. But what could NTUC be? First, I would say we could be a beacon for liberal religion, to let people know about our good news and life-saving message. I would not have us do a big advertising campaign. It's a lot of money, and I don't think it would be well spent. Besides, the most common reason people give for joining a church, someone invited them. So you have an assignment, each of you, right? We could be a catalyst for the growth of Unitarian Universalism. College is a time of exploration for many people, and I would love for us to invest in campus ministry. There are several models from a little bit of money to a lot of money, but congregation support is also important beyond that money. We could also help seminarians and theological students, important because we are in a wave of retiring ministers. We don't have enough ministers now to go around. We could be a catalyst for social justice because strong social action is good advertising. We got our start in our endowment from housing. Now, building another Rabel Place may not be feasible, but we could look at helping specific populations, like homeless youth. We could teach all in the community. We could be recognized for that. Teaching it because we know it's never going to get into the school system, but we could get out there and teach it and be known for it. If you teach it to the neighbors, word's going to get around and people start coming to this crazy church, right? Finally, what if we are a recognized and unified body of servant leaders? Servant leadership is when you're more concerned about what you bring to the organization than what you receive from it, than what you take from it. With these possibilities, let's look at some numbers. UUs are a tiny minority in this country, but like Quakers, we have had impact far beyond our numbers. With about 200,000 people, including children, we are 2/3 of 1/10 of 1%. Our numbers in Texas are a bit lower, with a bit less than half that 1/10 of a percent. A little over 3,000 people. National average, we would be closer to 5,000. But if we had Tulsa's numbers, now people say, oh, we can't grow, we're in a conservative area. I say hogwash. Tulsa, Oklahoma captured lightning in a bottle. If we had their numbers, there would be at least a couple hundred just in Louisville, another couple hundred in Carrollton, 2,000 or 3,000 in Denton County, 15,000, 20,000 in North Texas alone. Now, I am not for growth, just for growth's sake, just to be big, but to strengthen our message and our work. What happened in Tulsa can't be duplicated, but if we were anywhere close to that size, we could more easily afford to teach all at various locations, to build housing for homeless youth, and let more people know about our good news. People who could use a spiritual compass. Are you in favor? Finally, I would have you remember that this is not your church. This is not your church. This is the church of Dennis Hamilton, Marty Robinson, Lucy Lockwood, and those who founded Horizons, 35 years ago. This is the church of Reverend John Burns, who pushed Marty and others to come up here and found the place. This is the church of Robert Rabel, minister at Dallas for 22 years, who founded other congregations and built First Church to what it is. Daniel Christian Limbaugh and others 120 years ago who founded the Dallas church. This is the church of James Billings and Mary Ward Billings. You remember them? The leaders of the Universalist Convention of Texas, 1890s. They're progressive. They were doing things like working on equal pay for equal work in 1890s Texas. From Hyco, Texas. They weren't even in the big city. This is the church of Theodore Clapp, minister of our church in New Orleans in the 1860s, in the 1850s, who built that church up while it was still in slave territory. This is the church of Quillen Shin, Universalist circuit rider who founded churches all over the South. In one 3-year period, he did 15,000 miles on horseback. Dedication. This is not our church. We merely safeguard it for generations yet to come. As Theodore Parker said, let ours be a religion which, like sunshine, goes everywhere. Maybe so. Our closing hymn is number 143, which I think of as the old family hymn. My grandmother was a Tennyson. The words are written by Cousin Alfred, Lord Tennyson.
Not in vain nor distance beacons forward, forward, let us range. Let the great world spin forever down the ringing grooves of change. Through the shadow of the globe we sweep ahead to heights sublime. We, the heirs of all the ages, in the foremost files of time. Oh, we see the crescent promise of that spirit has not set. Ancient fonts of inspiration well through all our fancies yet. And we doubt not through the ages one increasing purpose runs, and the thoughts of all are widened with the process of the suns. Yea, we dip human eye can see the vision of the world and all the wonder that shall be. Hear the war drum throb no longer, see the battle flags all furled in the Parliament of Freedom, Federation of the world.
Daniel will now help extinguish our chalice today. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And as we say our mission statement, to welcome radically, love boldly, grow spiritually, and serve courageously. We do this for our vision. We envision a beloved community filled with compassion, helping all to thrive in a just world.
Closing words, an old monastic blessing, adapted by the Reverend Eugenia Gamble. I believe she's Presbyterian. May God bless you with discomfort, with easy answers, half-truths, and superficial answers, so that you may live more deeply and from the heart. May God bless you with anger at injustice, oppression, and the exploitation of people, so that you will work for justice, freedom, and peace. May God bless you with tears to shed for those who mourn, so that you will reach out your hand to them and turn their mourning into joy. And may God bless you with just enough foolishness to believe that you can make a difference in the world, so that you will do those things that others say cannot be done. Amen.